Okay, welcome to your next assignment. Your next essay is going to be what we call the persuasive essay. Now, what you have to understand about the persuasive essay, it's sometimes called the argument essay. I don't like that term because an argument implies that somebody's going to win. And the persuasive essay is something where if you could win at it, we wouldn't be discussing it. You think about an argument is usually two people fighting with each other. I don't like you, I don't like what you did. Well, you're a stupid head. You know, it gets all emotional and it doesn't really get anywhere. People just get tired of each other, they stop talking. We want something where people are going to be happy with what you're saying, they're going to listen, they're going to like some of what you say, and they're going to be willing to work with you. So that's why I call it the persuasive essay. Argument just doesn't seem to cut it. So keeping that in mind, you are going to be debating a point. You're going to have to pick something that is controversial, something that doesn't have an easy answer. Now, I'm going to come into the screen for a moment. Don't be afraid. Okay. Now, when we're talking about controversial issues, like I said, they don't have easy answers. We're talking about abortion, gun control, all sorts of things, illegal immigration. If they had easy answers, they'd be solved. We wouldn't be arguing and discussing this. You have to remember that there's basically three groups in any argument, any discussion, any persuasive issue. You have people who are all the way to the right, people who are all the way to the left, and you've got the people in the middle. You want to be trying to work with the people in the middle because the people who are on the other ends are extremists. And extremists are dead set in their ways and they can't hear anything except what they want to hear. For instance, the right is usually considered the conservatives, the Republicans. So over here on the right, if this was gun control, I got the right, according to the Constitution, to carry any kind of weapon I want. I can have bazookas, I can have tanks, I can blow up helicopters. It don't matter if the Constitution says I can bear arms or arm bears, whatever I want to do. Well, not 100% true, but then we go over here to the left and we get just the opposite extreme. Oh my God, like, guns are killing people, guns are killing little babies, people are dying in the street. We have to get rid of all guns. Like I said, they're extremists. We're not going to win on either one of those arguments. We have to find some common ground, somewhere in the middle, that's going to reach most people who are sitting there going, I hear what you're saying. I don't like the fact that babies are getting shot, but I also hear what you're saying, and I like to hunt. I like to have guns. I think it's important that we still have the right to arm ourselves in case our government goes totally wacko. So, what do we do in this situation? This is where our persuasive arguments come in, our persuasive discussions. We're going to look at other possibilities, okay? The real problem here isn't guns. It's people who shouldn't have guns. How do we keep the guns away from them? Well, we've been arguing that ever since there have been guns, ever since there have been weapons, ever since there have been people. So, we're not going to solve this overnight, but we may come up with some new ideas. Whenever there's been a mass shooting, what happens? Our government says, we're going to ban some guns. We're going to ban assault rifles. That's going to solve the problem. Well, how often have they actually been using assault rifles when they go shoot up a school? They have just a regular rifle. They have a shotgun. They may have some handguns. They're not in there with Uzi 9mm. Yeah. So we've got this problem. We have to think. How do we think beyond the obvious? What is a possible solution here? So you've got to start thinking a little outside the box. And then you start looking at facts, statistics, things like that. Okay, what kind of guns are usually used in these shootings? How do these people get these guns? Well, guess what? They're criminals. They didn't buy the guns legally in most cases. So, all right, we've already got this problem. We're making legislation and to stop them. They're criminals. We need to think like this. So this is what a persuasive discussion is. You're going to have to start thinking and saying, well, hey, let's start looking at how people get the license to own a gun. Let's start from that point and let's see where we go from there. Maybe we need to look at our policing techniques. And we need to look at how are we checking people who have guns. Right? There's a lot of ways that these guns are getting distributed. What are we doing about that? So we start looking in a different point of view. That's what you're going to be doing here. Except we're not going to talk about gun control or abortion or any of the obvious hot buttons. We've talked about something that's become relatively important in the last 5 to 10 years. Technology. We're looking at some right now. This was not in the classroom 20 years ago. 20 years ago when I was first starting teaching, I still had an overhead projector, okay? So technology has changed a lot. Now we're going to come back to that later. Right now, let's explore a little bit more about what is a persuasive essay. Now, get back to my controller. As I just said, the purpose is to convince your readers that your point of view, your idea is worth listening to. Over all the other things that are out there, you should be listening to what I have to say. They're going to center on something controversial, as I was saying. So you want to make sure that this is something that you have something to say about it other than what's already out there. You're going to present your position on the topic, but understand that you also have to discuss other points of view. You have to show why theirs won't work and yours will, or why yours is the one that's better to consider. By the end of the essay, you should have a pretty convincing argument. You have used data, you have used facts, you have used logic. This is important, logic, not emotion. Emotion doesn't get us anywhere. We just wind up with an argument, people's feelings get hurt, and they stop listening. You're going to open up with a topic paragraph. You're going to tell me what you're going to be talking about, but that's not the most important thing that first paragraph accomplishes, okay? Instead, what it really needs to do is grab my attention because you're talking about something that's really offensive often to people. Oh God, I'm so sick of hearing about gun control. So how are you going to get your person, how are you going to get these readers to want to read what you're saying? You've got to have something interesting, something that's going to grab their attention, something that's going to make them say, oh, this essay is different. This essay has something that makes me want to listen, makes me want to hear what this person has to say. You should open with something that's catchy or interesting. You want that reader to want to know more. You could start with a strong fact or statistic, such as, do you realize that most people who are getting killed with guns today are getting killed with handguns or shotguns or rifles, not with army assault weapons? So why is it that the Congress always bans assault weapons? They're not accomplishing anything. For example, you've probably seen this earlier in the semester about the distracted driver law that Maryland was considering just because cell phones were becoming a problem. So if you'll remember, I opened with that wonderful dramatic example of, on a beautiful warm August afternoon, Crystal waved goodbye to her mother and father as she left for college to study to be a teacher. Excited about living away from home for the first time, she called her best friend on her cell phone. As she was dialing, she did not notice the stop sign and drove straight to the intersection where she was hit by oncoming traffic. She was killed instantly. Crystal had just turned 19. Everyday drivers are distracted by their cell phones while on the road, frequently resulting in accidents with devastating results. Now, first of all, understand this is not real. I made this up. You don't want to make something up. You want to use something that's real. But this example, it got you, didn't it? You're sitting there going, oh my God, that's so sad. That's so terrible. Poor Crystal. Or you might be sitting there going, what a stupid person she was. Why is she looking at her stupid cell phone? She should be more careful when she's driving. Either way, it got to you, didn't it? So now you read a little bit more. And hopefully your argument will draw them even deeper and they'll keep reading. So your topic paragraph is going to have to be followed by the explanation. This is what I want to talk about. This is what you need to know. Here you're going to be objective and neutral. You are just telling me what the problem is. These are just the facts. This is the situation. Okay? Then you get to your argument. Now you get to your discussion. Here's where you start presenting your aspect on it. Now there's a lot of ways to approach this. You could do pro versus con, where you literally go, I have this to say, my opponents say this, but I say this, my opponents say that, and I say this, my opponents say that. You're literally going bam, 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 one after the other. But you don't have to do it that way. You can completely present your point of view, and then present your opponent's point of view. But somewhere along the line, you do have to show why your point of view is superior, or better, or a new start, something opposed to what your opponents are saying. Why should we be paying attention to what you have to say over them? So remember, when you're presenting the opposing point of view, you still want to be objective. You don't want to call them poo-poo heads, or these idiots, or those jerks, or stupid people say. No, you still want to come out and say, my opponent has said the following, and present it clearly, exactly as they've said it. Then you start showing the flaws in what they've said. So you start saying, well, yeah, and this is scary, this cartoon, because it's not far from what some people have been planning. Some people actually talked about allowing high school students to carry guns to school. They've talked about arming the teachers. Oh my God, some of the teachers I know should never touch a gun. But, you've got to look at these things and say, all right, is this a realistic way to approach this? Is this something we should really be thinking about? This leads finally to the conclusion. Here's where you're going to sum up the most important thing you want people to remember, is where you're delivering the punch. Just like in a commercial, when you're watching a Geico commercial, it does all this silly stuff, but it ends with Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on your car insurance. You remember that stupid last line, because that's their important thing. That's what they want you to remember. People remember the last thing they read. So your conclusion is where you're going to be delivering the most important part of your message. This is what we need to do. If we're going to stop global warming, we need to do the following. So you want your reader to walk away thinking about what you've just said. So your conclusion is very important. It delivers that thing that should be lingering in their mind. So, for example, now this goes back a good 10, 15 years, but it should be obvious at this point that Sarah Palin is not fit to be a leader in any capacity, much less a presidential candidate. Were she to be elected, we could look forward to 4 years of corruption and confusion due to a woman who is more concerned with her image in the press than she is about properly running the country. That would have been a conclusion to an essay trying to say, we should be voting for McCain and Palin, okay? We should be voting for the other person. Well, after she just went on The Masked Singer, I'm even more convinced that that was a good conclusion. Your essay is going to be 4 to 5, sorry, that shouldn't say 3, it should say 4 to 5 pages. Remember, follow this format: topic, paragraph, background information, state your position, other people's positions, compare and contrast your position with the other positions. And then finally, the conclusion. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Boom. Okay? That's the project. Now, you're going to be focusing on technology, and I will talk about that more in the next video.